Welcome, my friends, to How to Cure Depression in 500 Simple Steps. I'm not very good at making jokes. Honestly, I have a pretty dry sense of humor, but obviously anyone who reads that title will know that it's meant in jest. I thought if I did 50 easy steps, then people would actually believe it, even if I did 20 easy steps. The reality is that there are no steps to overcoming depression. It's very subjective and depends on your personal issues in life. But what I'd like to start off by saying is that I'm not here to minimize what depression is. I want to make that clear. There are some people out there who have extreme issues with, I'm not going to say chemical imbalance because that's proven itself to be scientifically inaccurate, and there's really no evidence to show that there's anything such as a dopamine deficiency or a serotonin deficiency in a majority of people. It's possible, and it happens, but it can be due to other causes, other medications we're taking, our lifestyle, whatever it may be. Generally, depression, what we call depression, is caused by our own lack of action, lack of exercise, lack of proper thought. And this is why through history we've had these like Buddhist type practices where people said to overcome you have to let go. Now, it's not always that easy. So what I'm saying is that there are people out there who may have a disorder which makes it nearly impossible for them to see things in a positive light. However, because there are a few people who are extremely depressed that, like clinical depression, which is, difficult to ascertain where it comes from. There are also many people out there, a huge amount of people, and many more who are mildly or moderately depressed and don't even realize it. And so the fact that there are some people who are extremely depressed should not minimize the fact that many of us have depressive episodes. When I was about 18 years old, maybe younger, 17 or so, I remember there was a period of time where I laid on my couch for like 2 weeks. I was living with my mom at her apartment we had at the moment, and I was convinced that all my friends hated me. I was convinced that at the time that somebody was talking shit and that all of them just thought I was a shitty person. A couple of weeks later, when I finally got off the couch and went out and hung out with my buddy, they're like, "What are you talking about?" They had no idea what I meant. It was all in my own head. And it was a lesson for me, but something I didn't think about until years later. And look, I'm making this video because I'm asking myself lately, am I depressed? There's a lot to be depressed about in life, okay? For all of us. The fact that we are mortal, but we can overcome that by enjoying the moments that we do have while we're here. In other words, no amount of worrying or stress or anxiety is going to help you overcome the fact that one day you're going to die. People don't like to talk about that, but it's important. We've created religions around where you go afterwards. All of that aside, the idea that right now in this lifetime, even if we live for eternity in happiness afterward, right now, we have to take accountability for being happy in our own lives. I think that if we're even moderately content and happy about where we're at in life, then we can lead a good life. There's no such thing as always being happy. And when people talk about happiness, it's not a guy walking around with a smile all the time, because that would be fake. It's a person who can take each moment for what it is and let go of the past if it doesn't serve him or her, and move into the future when it does, and use that as a lesson. And the one thing, the most important, most valuable lesson we can learn is failure. Because failure pushes us forward. It demands more of us. When you've failed at something, you don't look down on yourself because of it. You realize, I'm not going to make that same mistake again. And a lot of people do. They make multiple mistakes over and over. The same mistake. The revolving door of jail, for example. Prisons. But there's more complication to it than that. There are also the people who want to go back to prison or jail because it's easier for them, because that's what they know. Or something as simple as a person who lives on the streets and has no food. And my wife and I were talking about something yesterday. She said, one of the good things about Oregon passing these drug laws is where they legalized pretty much everything, or decriminalized anyway, is that no longer will, random homeless people be sent to jail for simply getting high. And my first thought was, yeah, that's great. And then it instantly occurred to me that how many people I've heard say that they want to go to jail. So many people who are get themselves in trouble on purpose in order to go to jail because it's a warm place to sleep, a warm bed, somewhat warm. I've been there and it's no fun. But a meal, even if it's a bologna fucking sandwich, but that's the truth of it. People are that desperate. So when we talk, if you're able to feed yourself, clothe yourself, bathe yourself, walk down the street, and you have a job and you have a home and you're depressed, it's really important to compare that. I hate using comparisons, but to say, what if you were so desperate you wanted to be locked up just so you could eat? It's not as common as one may think, but it's fairly common that people are so lost in their lives that they don't have any hope left whatsoever. So I feel like we owe it to ourselves, if we even have some hope left, to not let that depression pull us down, to not let those negative feelings pull us down, especially if it's due to failure or something we did wrong. How many times in the past have I screwed up a business I started, or had an idea that I didn't follow through with, or, have a dream of something I want to accomplish, but I wasn't able to obtain that because I didn't put enough focus into it. That's all my own fault. But it's nothing to get upset about or anxious or angry about. It's something that I just need to work on. And, me as an individual, for example, from the outside, each person's going to view me differently. Some people are going to think I'm a knowledge-ridden guru, and others will think that I'm a complete fucking rambling moron. That's okay. Other people's opinions matter only so much. But in my own life, I wrestle with my own depression about who I am, my own anxieties, my own fears. When I was in my early 30s, I suffered from some severe anxiety episodes. I never got to the point of having panic attacks. But my heart would race, I'd get butterflies in my chest, I didn't know what to do, and felt really overwhelmed. I went to the doctor at one point, even thought I wanted to take Valium because it had helped me so much. But then something clicked. Said, those feelings are important. They're the ones that push you. I do still obscure feelings sometimes, and I still push aside things by having a drink or smoking a bowl, but it generally doesn't get rid of that underlying angst that we have about being human and not knowing our place, not knowing our purpose, and trying to figure out maybe not what our life goal is, but rather just how to fucking survive in this atmosphere of chaos. Because what it really comes down to is how we perceive the world. And the most valuable element we have is not to see the world as it is, or to have knowledge about everything that's going on. That won't bring us out of our anxiety and depression. That'll make it worse. What we have to do is accept it as it is. You have to see it as it is, then accept it as it is. Meaning, you're not going to change the world overnight, and the world's not going to change for you. But you can change for the world. And that in itself seems like giving up, perhaps. Like, I'm not going to be what other people want me to be. But what if everybody wants you to be a nice guy and you're a jerk? It's going to benefit you to be a nice guy. And I'm not talking about being always a nice guy, but just not to be a jerk all the time. There's issues with being a nice guy all the time too. You get taken advantage of and you end up being just as miserable. You have to stand up for yourself, who you are, what you want in life, but at the same time, not be willing to bend a little. And if we're depressed over our own life problems, that's one thing. If we're depressed because we watch too much media, that's a completely different story. And I'll have to get into that one enough times, but another time. There's a lot of bullshit out there that we're constantly fed that keeps us depressed, keeps us anxious. And it's important that we take reins of our own lives as best we can. So that's all I got for this. Thanks for listening. If you want to support my channel, you can check me out on Patreon, Carpo719. I also have a Discord channel, as well as a Twitch, and which I don't use very often yet, but and a podcast called 15 Minute Free Thinking, where I talk about various issues like this. And I'll talk to you all soon. Be well. Take care of each other. Peace.